So again, a bit of a demonstration drive on how to drive your driving test. So today it is 1 degree, it's been below freezing, there's frost on the side of the roads. The roads are dirty, people are following too close, the roads are a little bit greasy, and you can see already windscreen is dirty. And we're joining the slip road very slowly because we're following a lorry, but trying to keep a reasonable gap. So coming up, checking my mirrors, get my indicator on. There is a lorry coming down the road. Is he going to move out at all? No, so I'm going to have to slow right down because he's going to literally block me off. But then he's going to move out at the last second, and then I can move out, which wasn't very helpful for anyone. But then we're going to move out. I would imagine that car there is going to move out, is it? No. So you've got to maintain the correct gaps. So I'm going to call this road, it's reasonably dry, but it's greasy. So you want a reasonable gap, so you could argue it is a wet road. So more than 2 seconds is a roundabout where you want to be. So going to pull back in after the lorry, check my mirrors, signalling to pull in, because there is a car behind. But still keeping up a reasonable pace, so I'm sat at 70. You can see here, I mean, there's basically a dry line on the road, even though the road's slightly greasy around it. Nothing in front of me at the minute. But if you're on your test and it's a day like today and your windscreen keeps getting dirty all the time, you have got to make sure you keep it clean. You can't drive with a windscreen that you can't see through, essentially. So we're going to carry on down this dual carriageway, keeping an eye on the mirrors at all times because it could be someone coming up quite fast. Although I'm doing 70, obviously people do go quicker, and also you get blue light vehicles, so there's no good thinking no one's going to come up behind you. And where I go to overtake matters because the gap to the back of the car that I'm coming up behind has got to be within the bounds of normality, so I can't just drive right onto someone's back bumper and swing out at the last second. Now here I'm actually backing off, keeping an eye on this slip road as well because it's quite a long slip road and people can come down it quite quick. However, I'm backing off because I am going to turn off on the next junction. So like I say, it's a demonstration drive, what you need to do on a driving test, keeping a reasonable gap. You find a fixed object and count, so use whatever you want. So 1 elephant, 2 elephant, 3 elephant, yeah, about there-ish is fine. The road is pretty dry now, I'm not going too quick. So we're coming off at this junction. So when I come off, I am going to turn right on the roundabout at the bottom. So I'm just going to keep an eye on my mirrors, move the car across to this lane. There's no one behind me, and then turning right on this roundabout. Third exit on this roundabout. So as I come down, make sure you're slowing right down. Keep an eye on the car in front. Make sure they do clear the roundabout. And then come right up to the line of traffic. Lovely gap after this van, so I'm chasing this van. That's the start of my gap, so I pull out behind it and drive into the roundabout. Then we're going to keep going round to the right. You can see it splits into different lanes here as well. There used to be 2 lanes right the way through this roundabout, but they got rid of the left lane here. And then I'm going to come off the next one. So again, mirror checking, because somebody, and sometimes people do, they come up on that hatch marking. And then as we come around here, it turns into a 30 limit. All flooded to my left, all the rooftops are white on my right, so you can tell it's cold. And then follow it into this village. So you can see the sign there, school crossing patrol, but it's outside of school times at the minute, it's just after 9. Zebra crossing, keep an eye on the zebra crossing, make sure there's no one coming out from anywhere, and obviously you've got the traffic lights as well, so it's mirror checks and slowing the car down. And then a reasonable gap. I'm actually going to stop. Okay, it's okay. So I was just checking what I was pulling up to on my left to make sure it wasn't an entrance into something, but it is actually just a driveway with the gate closed on it anyway. So it wouldn't be a problem. So now we're just going to wait for the lights. While you sat at the lights, it's more than just sitting there thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. you need to keep an eye on your mirrors. You need to know if anyone's coming up. There could be a bicycle coming up on my left-hand side or the right-hand side. There was actually a car driving down the right-hand side at the minute. Okay, fair enough. So they've driven past the queue of traffic all the way almost down to where I am, and then they've turned into a parking space on my right. And obviously you can see the van there is manoeuvring around. I'm not sure, is he actually trying to turn around? Yeah, it is. All a bit awkward because these traffic lights are across this junction, but actually on the other side of the road there's parking bays and the road is really wide. First time I've come across these lights here, so I don't know why they're here, but like I say, keep an eye on the mirrors at all times. I would imagine we're going to go next because it says three-way control. The opposite side is already gone. The left side is coming out at the minute. Now there's a stop on the traffic, so you would assume now that these lights are going to go to green after it's given a little bit of time for the cars to clear from the left. And there we go. Again, just keep an eye on my mirrors, make sure there's no one around, and then move it off. So now we move off, I immediately create a gap. Keep an eye on this zebra crossing. It is actually controlled by the traffic lights. It's got a red person on the sign. We've put up a separate thing for those, for the zebra crossing. Doesn't mean that people won't just walk across it anyway. Again, just mirror checks every time you come out. You need to know what's behind. Zebra crossing, but again, it's clear. And then a bit further up here, we're going to take a right. So again, checking behind, make sure you know what's behind you. Speed limit, well, you need to know what the speed limit is. What is the speed limit? It's a 30, because it's got street lights. So unless it tells you something different, then that's what it is. It's the right. Again, I check my mirrors and put the signal on. I don't need to say it every time, because that is what you've got to do. Turn from the correct side of the road into the correct side of the road, which does seem to be an issue for a lot of people who just turn straight across from the wrong side, essentially just cutting the corner off completely. Okay, so we've turned into this road, and again, what is the speed limit? Now I can see something with flashing yellow lights over the top of the hedges. I don't know if it's a lorry or a tractor, but it could be quite wide, and this road gets quite slim. Not sure, I think it might be stopped, so I'll keep an eye on that as I come around the corner. Yeah, so what's the speed limit? Every time you turn into a road, you've got to work out what the speed limit is. And this road, it's a 30. There's been no change of speed limit, no signs, and street lights. So I'm slowing right down because I can see something with yellow flashing lights. Where's that gone then? So I can't see where it's gone. What's the speed limit here? Well, so this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. He certainly wasn't doing the speed limit. It is still a 30, but you can see the repeater signs all the way up here. So now you've got repeater signs, but of course, if you leave an area with street lights and then there's no signage at all, then technically a road with no street lights becomes a 60. But in a situation like that, you have to consider the fact there's been no sign after the street lights end, so you need to look out until you see something, and here it does remain a 30. Obviously, this once upon a time was a 60 limit. A lot of people don't do 30, as you can see from the cars coming the other way, and there is a car quite close to me behind who aren't that happy that I'm doing 30, but it is a 30 limit. And again, this is what you've got to do while you're doing your driving test. It's not about learning the roads, it's about learning how to read the road and understand how to drive any road. You should be able to say a test anywhere. So, you know, we've followed the dual carriageway, we've gone through a small village or a little town, whatever you want to call it, turned onto a country road. Driving test should incorporate a mix of roads. So this is a mix of roads. They should also incorporate, where they can, national speed limits. Oh, somebody in the hedge there. So we've just gone into a national speed limits, but there is actually frost on the road here. So I'm not going to speed up very much at all. Well, I'm not going to speed up at all. It's not just about me either, because if I start to pick the pace up but a car coming in the other direction hits a patch of ice, frost and slides, they could slide straight into me. So the last thing I want to do is go quicker, so the impact speed is higher. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but all the side of the road is frosty and the middle of the road is icy. I mean, there the actual road is icy. So we're keeping it nice and easy. The car behind has actually dropped right off, interestingly enough, because in the 30 limit it was really close, but now we've got onto this bit, they are actually having the sense to see that the road is not a road you want to be going too quick down. So we're keeping it real easy pace-wise. And roads like this, stuff like that, is always an issue. Now actually, well, so for whatever reason, I made that through absolutely fine there, just moved over a little bit, but the car behind, I don't think moved over enough because the lorry had to slam its brakes on and come basically almost to a stop there. So look, reading the road, it's still a 30 limit, okay? That's 30 limit, it's a 60 limit, sorry. Get it wrong myself. It's still a 60 limit, but we're not going to be doing 60. Look at how tight this bend is, road's covered in ice. So national speed limits, de-restricted. So, you know, if we want to be specific about these things, when you've got street lights, the road is restricted. And when you've got no street lights, the road is de-restricted unless signage tells you otherwise. So coming into this, you can see we're now going from a section which was wide enough for 2 cars to a section that isn't. So now you've really got to read the road. And yes, you can use roads like this on tests. So don't think that it's all going to be plain sailing. You should be able to drive on any road. If this is the roads that are near your test centre, these are the roads they'll use. They'll use slim roads. Again, looking out, I'm looking for patches of ice on the road. All the puddles to the left are frozen solid. Again, this bit, it slims right down. You'd only get 1 car through this gap, but as you come into the next bit, it widens enough. Right, you can see there's stop sign, 100 yards. This bit of road here again becomes a bit too slim for 2 cars to get past each other easily, and then it's a stop sign. So a stop sign means exactly what it says. You need to stop. So we're going to bring ourselves up, come to a complete stop, and it's clear, so we go. There's enough space on this side of the road to move into this section, let these cars just get through, and then carry on. I wouldn't need to wait for those cars to get down there. Right, this bit's a bit tight, so I'm just trying to see. I couldn't see anything coming further on. That doesn't mean there couldn't be someone cycling or something through there. I can see a car in the distance, so now I've got to work it out, you know. It's a pickup truck. I can see he's going quite quick. He's not going to slow down, so I'm just going to wait here where this bit of road's quite wide. Everything's covered in frost there. Everything's icy, so you wouldn't want to meet anything. Did I say it was a pickup truck? I'm going mad. Their window was covered in ice and just scraped to the sides. Still wondering what happened to that thing with the yellow flashing lights. Anyway, so look, this is what you've got to do. Read the road the whole time. Try and look into the distance, see things that are coming up. You might see things that then disappear, like me. Or you might see something that you need to slow down and stop for. So there I called it a pickup truck, whatever. Still a car coming. Another car coming now, and the road widens up here. I can see it's a little bit wider. Where's he gonna go? I'm not pulling off the edge of the road. I mean, he could have stopped where he was as well. There's all deep frozen puddles there. There's no way I'm putting my wheels onto that. And you can see here, they could have actually waited in this bit if they wanted to. There's a van coming in the distance, but this bit of road is just about wide enough to squeeze through. He's going to wait for me anyway. I'm putting my hand up to say thank you, which you should be doing. If ever you've been told you can't take your hand off the steering wheel, well, I don't know how you drive a manual car if you can't take your hand off the steering wheel. But anyway, so here we've got a car with its hazard lights on. It actually looks like it's had an accident or something, because it's all dropped down on the other side of it. Yeah, they've got their little orange triangle. I think potentially they've hit the potholes, where I was talking about the frozen puddles on the side, and gone through them, because it looks like the left side of the car has dropped down. Maybe they've just got a puncture, or maybe they've broken something on the suspension. So again, look, it's a 60 limit road, right? So this is your driving test. You're driving on this road on a frosty morning. Your test may be cancelled if it's frosty. I should point that out. They often cancel tests when the pavements are icy, even if the road's not icy. So we're going to go left at the end of this. But at no point there did I get anywhere close to 60 miles an hour because it's not practical. So you drive the road to what the conditions are, what you can see. Now this section of road, I'm actually picking the pace up a little bit more. I can see the surface is okay, there's no frost on it, so I'm up to about 45 miles an hour now. And then we're coming up to a very odd junction here, and you do get odd junctions on driving tests. You might be thinking there's a lot of country road driving in. A lot of tests spend a lot of time in the countryside. So unless you live right in the middle of a town, or your test centre's right in the middle of a town, we're turning right here by the way, then you will spend a lot of time on country roads on the test. And they should, because these are the roads that are more dangerous. So you can see this is a really peculiar junction. Basically I'm going in a straight line, but it is turning right. You also can't really see around the bush, so I can see down this road clearly, but you have to move forward a little bit to see around the left side. Okay, we're still in the 60 limit. 60 limit because we're in a car. Obviously that van, for example, the speed limit is 50. So I'm picking the pace up again. This road's nice and clear. But as we go along, still looking for road signs, etc. And there you go, 40 limit. So glancing in the mirror, because someone could be overtaken on this section. It's a lovely long straight section. Get it down to 40. And now we drive this section at 40. Looking out for the junction, make sure no one comes out of it. Car ahead, obviously, as you can see, they've sort of disappeared off. So if you were just following them without really looking at the speed limit too closely, or your speedo, and you followed them straight through this section, then clearly you would not have slowed down to the 40, because they obviously didn't. They've disappeared up the road. So you've got to make sure all the time you're driving your own drive, paying attention to what you're doing. Often you hear people say things like, I was literally on the train the other day, and there were two people talking, saying, something about failing their test because of traffic lights at roadworks. But yeah, I can't remember the exact details of it, but I remember listening to them thinking, no, you didn't fail your test because of the traffic lights, you failed the test because of what you did. And you often hear that, or you see comments from people that they failed their test because someone else did something. The car in front did this, or the bus did that. Well, it doesn't matter what anyone else does, it's whether or not you do the correct thing. So if someone else does something they shouldn't do, but you react accordingly, so you do something that's correct, then there's no issue, because that would happen when you're driving at any normal time. So if you didn't react correctly, you did something that didn't make any sense, that was, not corresponding to what was going on in front of you, or to the side, or whatever, then that's why you get the fail, because they've looked at what you've done and gone, wow, that isn't good enough. You would not have coped with that if you were driving by yourself. Therefore, you're not ready to pass your test, and you're not ready to drive on the road by yourself. Now that makes complete sense, I would hope. But as I say, a lot of people blame other people for test fails. But it is always because you weren't ready, because you didn't know what you were doing with it, you're not experienced enough. You need time behind the wheel at the end of the day. Okay, so look, we're still following this. This road's a bit wetter now, so I'm going to give this Range Rover a bit more space. Look, you can see there's actual puddles on it. So here we definitely want 4 seconds between us and them. 4 seconds is an awfully long way, but when the road is slippy and greasy and wet, it's a reasonable distance. So look, we're following this through. You can see a lorry coming, or a van, yeah. God, I keep saying everything wrong today, but at least I can see him coming, eh? Come around these corners. Speed limit's still 40. And then we're going to go left at the end of this road. Now you can see, look, before we turn into this road, national speed limit sign. So the road we're going into is national speed limits, de-restricted. So you need to know the speed for your vehicle, check both ways. The speed limit for this is 60, although this road you're not going to go up to 60 because it's too tight and twisty, and it's the same. People often say, oh, how can I get up to 60? I thought I was supposed to get up to the speed limit, or up to a reasonable pace. Well, no, you drive at what's reasonable to the road. If you're on a clear, open A road, then you should be doing 60 miles an hour. If you're not, then there's a good chance you'll fail your test, because they're going to question why you weren't driving at a normal pace. Here, a normal pace is not 60. Now you can see we've gone into a 30. Because it's too fast for the road, too fast for the conditions, you can't see through the corners. So that's why it doesn't make any difference. That's why speed limits are there in roads like that. It doesn't matter. People sometimes then say, why not make it a 30? Well, what's the point? You can't drive at 60 anyway. You should be able to read the road. And if you're reading the road, the speed limit is actually irrelevant to an extent because you should be driving to the conditions. Okay, so look, we're going to carry on following it down. I'm going to finish this in a minute. Like I say, it's a demonstration drive for a driving test, but not just going through roundabouts in a town, because a lot of tests run out into the countryside on routes like this. So we're in a 30. We're going to take a right in a minute. And there it is. So mirror checking, signalling, slowing the car down, keeping myself in the correct side of the road, looking into the road that I'm turning into the correct side of the road. And then I'm going to do a pull up on the left. So I'm going to pull up here, got a car behind, so slowing down, indicating, positioning, and pull it up nice and neat. I look for a nice neat place to stop. And I'm going to make it safe. So yeah, look, that's a demonstration drive. That's what you got to do. Look ahead, drive to the conditions, drive the car properly. There were very limited areas there where you get up to speed apart from on the dual carriageway. Read the road signs correctly. You should be able to take a driving test absolutely anywhere, as long as you actually know how to drive a car properly. It doesn't matter if you know the road at all. It's not about learning roads, it's about learning to drive.